Hello, everybody, for the final time on the free-to-play challenge account. As you can see, there are a lot of red dots on the screen. I have not logged into this account in about 2.5 weeks, but you guys asked for it. You said in the comments you wanted me to kind of do a recap and kind of talk about what I would change, what I would have done differently. So that's what this video is going to be about. First and foremost, I am going to give away the account, mostly because there's a lot of value on the account right now. If we look at the roster, we did pull Inithwi Blood Twin, which is a great legendary, and I think it's really going to be beneficial to somebody looking to start up a new account. We have some great epics in there, a great legendary that you can't get anymore, which is pretty cool. Um, and it has the revival path. So if you are somebody that wants to spend a little bit of money, you can get access right out the gate to this extra sacred for free. But if you wanted to spend a little bit of extra money, you can get Elva Autumn Bloom, and then of course you have your boosts and everything as well. So kind of a good starter account to give to anybody if you're interested. So if you are interested, I, I, I don't really know how I'm going to do it. But post in the comments. I feel like Discord's probably the best way to do this. I haven't really given it that much thought, but post in the comments. And if you're interested in the free to play challenge account, and what I'll do is I'll basically just kind of do a random number generator and pick one of you guys. I'll respond to your comment and just have you guys message me directly, and we'll get it figured out one way or another. So that's the plan for the challenge account. Now, let's talk about kind of how I feel about the challenge and everything. It was indeed a challenge. You don't really realize how hard this game is when you can't use a lot of legendaries. Now, I did watch, and if you haven't already watched, I'm sure that he saved it. They did a live stream today, the team captains, and talked about how their progress went and things like that. Um, a lot of them were able to get the fusions, which really helped them out big time. Obviously, I didn't do that. Furthermore, my epics were not terrible, but there are better, certainly better epics out there. And so what are my regrets? I regret taking Athel as a terrible decision. If you don't recall, the reason I went with Athel was because she has weaken on her A1. And my thought process was we have decreased defense from Rathalos, so I wouldn't really need a decreased defense champion. And then we have weaken from Athel, which would work out great. I'd have both of the kind of abilities I would want to increase my damage output. Yeah, that didn't happen. Um, Her extra turn mechanic made it much harder to speed tune. Her damage output left a lot to be desired when compared to the amazing damage output that you get from somebody like a Kale, for instance. And then I would have gone Deacon. Miscreated is great, but I did not feel as though he did enough for me. He helped me a little bit in the early game, but he never felt as impactful as what I get from Deacon. Because Deacon gives me value everywhere in the game. In wave clear with turn meter control, decreased defense on an AoE. And then we get, which I know I could just go get a War Maiden, but still he is there every time. A speed aura to start the game, and Leech. And Leech was, I think, what really got me. I wasn't able to survive without using lifesteal gear, and I didn't have enough lifesteal gear to go around that was worthwhile to really keep the teams alive. And the leech from Deacon is a little bit more consistent because Hotatsu's is only on a single hitter where Deacon's is on a multi-hitter. Trying not to sneeze, sorry guys. So he lands his more often. You'll see 30% chance. It's 50% chance when booked on a 2 times hitter. So it just lands more. We get the turn meter. Still an extra turn mechanic, which can be frustrating to work around, but you're getting a speed aura in all battles, so every area of the game, and then a consistent decreased defense as well. I just, for me, think Deacon still would have been a really strong addition to my team. So, a little disappointed with the choices of champions that I went with in the beginning. I thought Miscreated having Ally Protect would be everything I could possibly need to get through Clan Boss. That wasn't the case. So, definitely one of the, would start with those 2 starters instead of Athel and Miscreated. Now the difference between Athel and Kale is very great. The difference between Miscreated and Deacon is not as big. I don't think I would have been wrong if I had Kale Miscreated. I think that would have been fine. I think Kale Deacon is a little more consistent, I feel like. But especially because you're going to Magic Affinity, which can cause challenges in certain areas of the game as far as progression. So I'm very Magic Affinity heavy, as you can see. So it would have been nice to have a Spirit champion of some significance to really make an impact. I'm going to leave all these red dots, guys, and that's so whoever gets the account, can do what they want with it. Let's talk about how I felt about the event. I enjoyed it. Obviously, it was a huge boost to my channel, which I do appreciate. I gained a lot of new viewers, a lot of new subscribers. It really helped my channel grow, and I'm thrilled about that. But what I don't like, and I don't know how they can fix this because it's the best way to make it fair, but I don't know how they can fix this. It's less fun. I love playing Raid Shadow Legends, and when I first started this free-to-play account, I had a lot of fun doing it. I truly did. It was a blast. Even though I didn't really like having Athel, I hated her animations, I hated her damage, I hated everything about her. But I still had fun progressing and checking all these boxes as I went along. However, what I really didn't like is not being able to use legendaries that I pulled, because it took away the excitement of pulling shards, which is a big part of the game. It really changed how I felt about the game and saying, like, yeah, I'm going to, like, we're going to get, come on, legendary, 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 Like, you get excited for that, and I never felt that excitement. It's like, I'm just hoping for Geomancer is really all it came down to. Because the power creep is so real in the game, it makes epics are already undesirable kind of on both of my accounts at this point, and even more so on my main account. On this account, I felt that same kind of thing. It's like, oh, I pulled an epic. Okay. And epics are all I could use, but I was still disappointed that I pulled an epic. And there's a lot of, like, average epics out there. Like, you'll see I've got a pretty deep pool of epics here. I don't even know how many are in the vault. I guess none. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11 epics that I pulled over the course of the game. And I just never felt that satisfaction. I never felt that excitement that you'll see when I pull a legendary on an account, especially on my free to play account. So that's one thing I wish there was a way to come up with a system that would allow us to use legendaries. And I totally understand how it's unfair to allow people to use legendaries because one of the content creators, I think they said they pulled 7 legendaries in 3 months. I pulled 3. Well, I pulled 2 and I was given one, which was Rathalos. So I understand how it's unfair. And I don't know that there's a way that they can balance that. But still, that's kind of what killed my progression at the end. That's really what did me in at the end. I worked really, really hard to achieve the highest possible clan boss score that I could. And then they moved the goalpost on me, which I didn't like. I was under the impression I had this day. I played up until that day, and then they didn't release the results for like another 2 weeks, and I was really confused. I was like, oh, I guess I could have kept progressing. I could have leveled my anchorite and seen what he could do for the team with his ally buff extension as well as his little buff removal as well. And I'm a little disappointed in that, right? I wish I could have had a better understanding of the game, of the rules, I should say, so that I knew when that I had more time to complete the clan boss challenge because they assigned these individual challenges. Now, for what it's worth, my team did win that challenge, but that's because Odd One had Ultra Nightmare unlocked, so it was uh, kind of easy. The other thing I would do different is I would start in an established clan. I would not do it on the free to play in the free to play clan because they don't have as much progression. It took some time for Nightmare to get opened, which was a problem. And then we would lose clan v clans. We would lose that. There's different. You're also doing lower levels of clan v clans, so you're not getting as much access to good gear and rewards. So I would certainly want to start in my clan, for example, and progress my character through that clan. So that's one thing that I would certainly change about my approach as well. So I would go with different starter champions and I would start with an established clan. The other thing that I would change is I wouldn't YOLO shards. I went into this thinking, well, I don't want legendaries, so why would I wait for a 2x event when I could just pull shards? Well, there's a downside to that. And one of those downsides is that you're not pulling during champion chases, so you're not double dipping. And that 2x event also increases my chances of getting epics. So I want to be pulling during those still because I want a chance to get more epics, right? I also never had shards to go after any fusions, which it seems like they're really making it a thing now where you have to pull shards in order to complete a fusion. I never had the shards to do it. So that was another kind of hindrance on myself. So I wouldn't YOLO shards. What I would probably do is save up all my shards, build my first 3 characters, meaning the free to play legendary, the epic, and the rare. Well, sorry, I would go rare, epic, legendary. And then maybe pull a couple of shards after all 3 of those are 6-star and see if I can get something worth leveling. Whether it's a really good rare, maybe an apothecary or frozen banshee, something along those lines, or a good epic or a decent epic and say, okay, cool, I'm going to roll with this epic and then continue saving shards until another opportunity presents itself where I could pull shards that would give me value on the account. So those are a few things that I would have done differently. I think I certainly learned from this experience. I think I grew as a raid player from the experience because it's opened my eyes to buff extension and things like that. On my free-to-play account, I was blessed just very early on with Demitha and so I was able to build an unkillable team quite early on that account, certainly earlier than on my free to play account. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I think I've got. I would definitely do that stuff different. I also think the other reason I would go Deacon, I think Deacon's going to be better for me in the arena, help me progress higher by building a speed team that works around with a spirit host who I could farm and use her as my increase attack champion to get the most value out of my nukers. Let's talk about why I think Kale is the better choice too. So I think Kale is the better choice not just because of poisons, and that's the easy answer. But what I love about Kale is the turn meter fill for each enemy killed. You'd be surprised at how much this comes in handy and you get an extra turn, or at least get to jump the turn order and get some extra hits in. It's such a slept on ability that I don't think people consider all that much when you talk about his kit. Most people talk about the multi poisons on the A1, but I really like his A2, and it hits hard. It hits just as hard as Ethel's A2, but her A2 doesn't really do a lot of damage. And they all have this 15% mechanic. It doesn't matter who you are, but that doesn't apply to the A1, so it's like you wouldn't want to just build them for 75% because then they won't do enough damage with their A1s. Actually, in Kale's case, you probably could do that because really with the A1, all you want is the poison to land. So that's kind of a better option, but all in all, pretty disappointed with my performance and kind of the choices that I made to start the account. I would definitely do some things differently. I think I've covered everything that I really wanted to do differently on missions. I would do missions a lot earlier too. I really got stuck behind easily achievable missions, and I would get stuck because it was old content and I didn't want to go back and do it. So I really need to I would really focus on missions on a much earlier in game, and I would want, if I was to do this again, I would want to have this be my primary focus. I wouldn't have two other accounts going. I would probably have to stop temporarily on one of those accounts because it's too much to run three accounts, even with the help of RSL Helper, which I found out later on throughout the progression. Once when RSL Helper's down, it's usually down for 2 or 3 days, like we just saw. That makes it really hard to keep up, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do the three accounts. That was too much work, especially going for fusions. I went for my first fusion on the regular free-to-play account during this event. That took a lot of time and energy. So that's, I guess, got burnt out towards the end. But I am excited to do it again, and I hope I get the opportunity to do it again. So that's everything. I'm going to end it here. If you guys are interested in the account, let me know in the comments. I will go through the comments. I'll pick somebody using a random number generator, and then we'll go from there. And I'll contact you guys directly, and we'll hand off this account. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for the support while I went through this challenge. I look forward to being able to do it again next year. I'll see you all in the next, well, there won't be another video on this, but hopefully I'll see you guys on my free-to-play account, next video for my free-to-play account, or the next video that I do on my main account. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.